Called to order the special meeting of the Village of Vernon Hills Village Board for September 7th, 2017. I need a roll call, please.
President Byrne, trustees Cook, Oppenheim, Takaoka,
Here.
Hebda,
Here.
Schultz, Markwart.
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum. We need a motion to appoint a president pro tem for this meeting.
I would like to actually have Cindy stand in for Roger in his absence.
Okay, is that a motion?
It's a motion.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Apologize for the delay, but if everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item, if there are any citizens wishing to address the board on any other items that aren't on the agenda, any other items, anybody? If it's about the skunks, we do have that on the committee of the whole, so, but yes, please come up. And if you'd state your name for the record, please, thank you.
My name is Laura Miller.
Okay.
I live at 8 Mayflower.
Okay,
I've lived there for about 19 years. I have some bushes in my neighbor's yard that are horrible. I have pictures and I also have video. It's to the east of me. So I'm at 8 Mayflower. This is 10 Mayflower. It has been a nuisance for, I would say, I lived in the house for 19 years. He planted them right when we moved in, and they've just been grown. I would say it's been a good 15 years that they've been a nuisance. They are, I don't know, probably 8 feet tall. I pull out of my driveway every day. I don't have a parkway. I don't have any sidewalks on my side of the street, so I don't have that extra apron at the back. And I can't see the people coming down my street. It's horrible. I have video if you'd like to see it. I have pictures if you'd like to see it. I've called the village about this numerous times over the past, probably 12 years. My son is a civil engineering major at the University of Illinois. He worked for the Village of Buffalo Grove this summer. He worked for the civil engineer there, and because he is also a driver, he has a hard time pulling out of the driveway as well. So he did his own research and came up with a bunch of codes within the Village of Vernon Hills, and he wrote a letter to the village. I believe I forwarded it to Craig, and that letter was forwarded to the codes enforcer in the village. I can't recall his name. He did email my son back and basically, said it was a great letter and great job, but nothing was ever done about it. They're still there. It is a nuisance. I'm a little disappointed in the village that, here's a college student who did all of this research and nobody ever got back to him. I understand we had all this flooding and there was a lot going on, and trust me, he was busy in Buffalo Grove as well, but nobody ever got back to him. One of my neighbors looked into it, and whoever the codes enforcer was said, I guess they maybe made him trim the bushes, which is great, but you still can't see. It's very, very difficult. I have a 15-year-old who's starting driver's ed, and he's going to be pulling out of the driveway as well. And I'm glad that the police are here because I can't tell you how many times my neighbors have come down that street, and my back end has almost been just nailed. And who's going to get called? The police. So if you'd like to see pictures or video, it's on my phone. I'd be happy to show you, but I really would like for somebody to come out. Actually, I'm a little upset Roger's not here because he's one of my neighbors, and he saw my husband the other day and came around the block and looked at it, and he said, that's on our property. So I was hoping to talk to him about it tonight, but obviously he's not here, so I was hoping that you all could help me because it's been way too long, and it is really, really very dangerous.
Building Commissioner Mike Atkinson, can you help us out with this?
And thank you for the information as well. We did get the letter forwarded to the code enforcement officer.
Okay.
And we have made several contacts with the neighbor. They do have to trim them to a certain minimum height.
What is that height?
I believe it's 30 inches. I don't know it off the top of my head.
Let's see, 30 inches is,
If you could,
yeah,
yeah, so,
okay,
and there is a very specific height in the zoning ordinance that it has to be, and you have to have a site triangle that's opened up, so it's either 20 or 25 feet in each direction.
okay,
The information was shared with the neighbor. They trimmed them, but not low enough. So we did make that second contact with them. They've been requested to trim them down to the appropriate height.
okay,
They were given a certain date that is, I don't know the exact date off the top of my head. If I knew you were here, I'd be better prepared for you. But,
Okay.
But the date comes up next week by which they're supposed to be trimmed down.
Okay.
And then if they are not, we'll continue code enforcement action against them.
perfect,
And we did also receive information from the mayor to make sure we follow up on this as well.
great, okay, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Could I
Thank you.
just ask a question?
Sure.
I would assume there is some conflict with them if, by asking them to cut it, your neighbor?
Oh, yeah. We have big conflict with them. That's not even the only conflict, so. But we're civil, we don't really,
Sure.
there's never,
absolutely.
have any, I mean, a while ago there has been, but we don't speak to them, unfortunately. I'm not quite sure if you all remember, but they're the ones that dug out their basement without a permit about, I don't remember, maybe 10 years ago. That was a whole big deal with the village. They had a crawl space,
Okay.
and they dug their basement out, and I had ants in my house that were this big from
Well, we'll make sure and
disrupting.
follow up. Mike will,
Okay,
absolutely.
thank you very much,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens that would like to address the board, please come on up. And if you'd state your name and address for the record, thank you.
Hi, my name is Sherry Hudenberg, and I'd like to talk to you about
Where, address? Your-
1104 Eisenhower Court.
Thank you.
I'd like to talk to you about traffic congestion issues here in Village of Vernon Hills. I emailed all of the trustees late today, actually had communication with Craig late today as well. I've been a resident since 1987 to Vernon Hills in the area. And I just wanted to mention that the congestion problems impact Vernon Hills residents as well as the businesses, people traveling through the village, and, but most importantly, impacts emergency service staff from getting through intersections at critical times when someone's life might be in danger. With Melody Farms Shopping Center being built, the Village of Vernon Hills will have even heavier traffic issues than what's going on right now. During rush hour, many of the intersections along Route 60 and Milwaukee Avenue have congestion issues. Drivers block the intersections so that they can get through the intersection, but the cross intersections can't get through, okay? So anyway, it creates a bottleneck situation for other drivers. And I'm not familiar with Route 45 so much, but, because I don't drive that way. But my suggestion is to post signs in the village that say, "Do not block intersection," so that we can eliminate the traffic issues and also prevent any problems with emergency vehicles getting through. I'm sure that this should prevent the bottleneck issue and make traffic move more smoothly.
I'm going to let our Public Works Director talk about Route 60, because we talked about it earlier today, too, because part of that, it's been a major problem with the resurfacing of it, too, which is causing a lot of different diversions of traffic around the town.
And it'll probably touch also on 45,
Yeah.
too.
Absolutely. So, yes, absolutely, Route 60 with its construction, IDOT's project, there's a lot of eggs being broken, but we'll get an omelet. So really where we're at is, they are proceeding easterly, they're making good progress on it. Talking to them, they're anticipating that it'll be completed towards the end of this month. And so they're working through that. In terms of posting signs on a state route, the village cannot do that. That has to be the state. Signage may help. I think a lot of it comes down to courtesy, whether or not someone's going to be the last person to dart through the intersection. So I think a lot of it, I'm not sure that the signage at all those intersections is necessarily going to be the solution.
Could possibly have a police officer.
Okay, so do you have other suggestions to alleviate the problem?
If you could explain the problem a little bit more. I didn't catch all of what you were saying.
Okay, so at the intersections along 60 and 45,
Yes.
people will block, the light will be green, but then they will go all the way through and block an intersection, so cross-traffic can't get through. The light turns red on the major intersection, but the minor intersection, people can't get through it. Are you familiar with this?
Hi, thank you. I'm certainly familiar with inattentive drivers and people committing violations. If there is a particular, are you talking about one particular intersection that you're seeing repeatedly, or pretty much the whole length of Route 60?
Pretty much all of 60
Yeah.
and part of Milwaukee Avenue.
Yeah, and we drive it every day. I drive it every day. And, you know, we're trying to get traffic through there. The state's been pretty good about trying to keep 2 lanes open in the heavy direction during both sides of rush hour. What you're commenting on is frankly just poor driving behavior. And I don't know that there's any amount of engineering during a construction site.
I'm not talking about the construction time.
Yeah.
I'm talking outside of construction.
Oh, even beyond the construction.
Correct. Before the construction even began, this has been a problem.
All right, so how about if we do this? If you'd like, I'll give you a card, and then after this meeting, maybe we could just talk a little more, and maybe it's something I could maybe direct some targeted enforcement, see if we can make any type of,
Sure.
because I don't think it's an engineering solution, but perhaps if we spend a couple minutes on the phone, we can
Great.
do that,
Okay.
all right?
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
I will say, just as you are right, it is definitely congested out there. Unfortunately, some of the things we're tied with because it's state and not the village. One of the things I wanted to bring up is 45. Because of the roads going east and west, 45 is a road that is supposed to be a 4-lane. This village has fought when all the buildings went up, houses went up, the easement was set back for the purpose of 45 having 4 lanes. It has gone through phase 1. It has gone through phase 2. Those are the critical points of it. Phase 3 probably is the critical point, and that's money. And the thing is that the state doesn't have it. And we've gone through, we planned for this because of this village, but we're at a point where there's no money.
Okay, so 45, 60, and Milwaukee are all state roads.
Yes, they are. They're all state
Okay.
roads. Right, right.
I knew that Milwaukee was, but I wasn't familiar
Right,
with the
60 is and 45 is certainly.
Okay.
We have definitely done, that gentleman there, we have spent a lot of time on this, and we are pushing for it. And unfortunately, you are correct. It's, more people are here. This village receives over, 100,000 people coming in and out because of business.
Yeah, we do.
So you are correct. It's difficult, and we've tried to make a difference out of it. But in some cases, our hands are tied with it. But road improvements, we are definitely, for some of the infrastructures, we are doing changes too for that.
Okay.
But welcome, by all means, please let us know with problems.
Yeah, and maybe adding to what Trustee Markort said as far as Route 45, we just met with IDOT yesterday on that, and so we're trying to push the project forward, and really it comes down to exactly what he said. It's $73 million that the state doesn't have. So they're readying the plans, they're getting them ready to go, that they'll be ready to bid once the state has the money to accomplish that.
When will
So,
that be?
We're going to pray. We're going to pray to
so
help us,
as
right.
best as one can through the village's efforts, we're going to get the project ready. And then anything we can do to, impress upon people that this is an important project. It was ranked the #1 project within this area to have it move forward. So there's a lot of political pressure on IDOT to move it forward. They understand that. It just comes down, can they come up with that money? So it all comes down to money, doesn't it?
We'll keep
Thank you
pushing.
so much, though. We'll keep pushing. We'll keep pushing. We'll try,
Well,
and
thank you.
the chief will work with you, too. I mean, certainly we'll try to address some of the needs. Thank you. Any other citizens that want to address the board? Tim, come on up.
My name's Tim Knuckles. I'm at 229 Alexandria Drive, Deer Path. I just had a general, I just wanted to get the ball rolling on an idea. I'm sure I'm probably not the only one that only had this idea so far, but to get a playground over at VHAC. I work there for the Vernon Hills Park District. I can't count the number of games that am associated with the Park District there that I probably go through a box of ice packs every season, just giving it to a kid that's maybe a little bored, running around, getting hit by a ball, doing something that, I mean, you basically have 4-year-olds going to watch Johnny and Susie's soccer game or baseball game, and they get bored really quick. Mom can't really, mom and dad probably trying to watch the game, so the kids are running around. And I think it's a perfect spot for at least getting the ball rolling, and I definitely would volunteer my services. I definitely have a lot of experience when it comes to fundraising at the corporate level. I do it for SRA-CLC. I've done it for Make-A-Wish Foundation as well. So I volunteer my services for that as well. But yeah, I just wanted to come up and maybe just start conversation with the board. And definitely I want to get the Park District involved as well. I know VHAC is village property, so obviously this is your call. But bringing on the Park District, who has immense knowledge and experience at building playgrounds, I'm assuming with the amount of parks in our village, they do a fantastic job as well. So any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Tim,
Tim.
I will bring up is that in the plans when the VHAC was produced, there was a point of building it. We have gone through, Mr. Dave Dorhofer's in the audience, and if I'm correct, to build a park, you're looking at, how much? Probably about 600? Okay. 3 to 6. So there is an expense out of it. Things that we're looking at, which we've done through the years, is we've added lights. We've added more lights.
Right.
One of the things personally right now, too, that I would like to see is shelters, because when the kids are playing and the storm guard goes off, there's no place to go.
There's that little gazebo,
So-
you're right.
And that's
So
Yeah, that's about it.
gazebos that, if you're out in 7, 8, there are some places. I definitely, I know I've coached there, I've done when it started the program, so
Yep.
I've been around. It is a very good concept to it, and we will take a look at it. But again, it runs in. In fact, just even throw you some things out of it, we probably end up, the VHAC costs for operations per year of about $250,000, $250,000.
I know what it costs to turn those lights on, so.
So,
yeah.
but actually with the lights going on, you do get a little payback, because when the lights go on, they are used by certain areas, and
Okay.
there's money that does come back.
Yeah.
But it costs about $250,000 to run the VHAC, which is not actually, does not come out of anybody's pocket, a resident's pocket. And be honest, I'm grateful for that, because I'm a believer of the youth programs out here. So, but it is something we'll definitely take a look at. There are other things that we'll run into, but no, it's something that was originally in the plans when it was designed.
Excellent.
Public Works Director Brown.
And Tim, I can add a little update. As part of the CIP program, it was approved to look at some planning out there. We don't have the money right now budgeted to make the improvements, but we're planning for it. We just met with a consultant who's looking at a shelter, bathrooms, some storage, and then also within that plan, we're talking about that playground. So In terms of engaging the Park District, by all means, we always engage the Park District, work very well with them, so they will be included.
I think it's a worthy
Sounds good.
discussion, and I think it needs to be done with both boards, and we'll hopefully discuss this as it comes up and make sure that we can do something. I think it's a good idea, very good idea. Anybody else that would like to address the board on something other than what's on the agenda? Nope. Okay, we'll go on to Assistant Village Manager Carey with Oktoberfest.
Thank you, Your Honor. So it's this time of year again for our special event, Oktoberfest. Now in its 13th year, it's taking place on Saturday, September 23rd, from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Vernon Hills Metro Station, the address being 75 Route 45. Again, this year we'll be having face painting, free kids crafts, a hayride, a balloon artist, as well as various inflatables, all free of charge. We also will be having pumpkins. Every year we purchase over 500 pumpkins that children are able to paint. I'll warn everybody, they go fast, so if you're interested in taking advantage of that, we would strongly encourage you to attend right when it starts at 3 p.m. And for evening entertainment, we will be having several bands, both locals, VHR Band, which stands for Vernon Hills Rocks, as well as the B-Side Band. We'll also be having, again this year, a number of nonprofit organizations who will be selling food and other items. Those will include the Boy Scouts as well as Girl Scouts, senior organizations, Sports for All, as well as the Lions Club and Park District. So, again, if you've got some lederhosen or Durdens, feel free to bring them along and have a great time.
Don't fit in them anyway.
In regards to Oktoberfest, I reached out to Joe Carey. This whole Oktoberfest started in 2001 when Katrina hit New Orleans as a hurricane. In light of what's happened in Houston and in light of what's going to possibly happen in Florida, I asked Joe to think, is there a way that we could possibly raise some funds to send to those victims via the Red Cross? So Joe and I talked a little bit briefly today, and we really feel that, we could match amount of funds based on what maybe people could give, because I think the Red Cross is going to be in a lot of need for these people. So I don't know how other board members feel, but I'd really like to do something along those lines. Since it's coming up in September, it seemed appropriate. The timing, unfortunately, for those folks has come to light, and I think we could do something here as a village, because I think people have asked what they can do, and maybe this is some way that we could help for those that attend Oktoberfest.
Last year, we did a fundraiser for the flooding victims in Louisiana, specifically the Baton Rouge Area Foundation. As in the past, we did with Hurricane Katrina. With last year, we did a match donation up to $5,000. I believe we collected almost $900 total in donations. That includes the village's match. With there actually being, unfortunately, 2 hurricanes that are going to be impacting the Gulf Coast region, we're looking at just a straight donation to the Red Cross. There's a number of other charity organizations that are out there, and we certainly would encourage residents to take a look at those. Those are on the screen right here. Red Cross obviously is a large one. Global Giving, United Way. They have various chapters that you can donate to very specifically. So if there's a specific community that you feel is in dire need, you certainly are able to direct your funds to them. And then FEMA also has a really great website on how to donate responsibly. Unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of organizations out there that are in need. But it's also important always to make sure that your money is going to the right place for the right reason. So always want to encourage residents to donate responsibly with doing that. With respect to Oktoberfest, one item we could do if the board wishes to, we could set up a donation at the ticket counter as well as at where the beer sales are being distributed. And we can make sure that those are encouraged, as well as information placed on our website, social media, and just make sure that information is really broadcast throughout the special event.
So I'm asking if someone would like to entertain a motion to do this
I would,
and not to put a dollar amount on it that we could match.
I would definitely, we've done it before, and I don't know, with the variety from Red Cross or so on, it's something that would help definitely with these victims. So I would raise a motion to look at funds that would be raised for the purpose of hurricane victims.
Yeah.
Not to exceed amount, you stated had before, $5,000.
5,000.
Second.
Second? Okay. Any other questions? If not, can I have a roll call?
Trustees Hebda,
Aye.
Schultz, Markwart,
Aye.
Cook, Oppenheim,
Aye.
Takaoka.
Aye.
And thank you very much for it. I appreciate that. All right, second item, Finance Director, who's not here. So I'm going to ask Brian to take the Passport Parking mobile app at the Metro Station. Brian?
Sure, thank you. We're pleased to announce that on Tuesday, September 12th, the village will go live with the Passport Parking mobile app that will allow residents and commuters utilizing the Metro lot to pay for their daily parking. The app is available for free from the App Store and Google Play. And the parking fee remains $1.75 with a 37-cent per transaction fee. The signs are posted. They're currently covered, but they'll be unveiled on Tuesday morning. And the village will also be posting information online at village facilities and the like for residents.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Perfect. All right, Chief of Police, 13th Annual Law Enforcement Exhibition at Hawthorne Mall.
Thank you. Yeah, just wanted to remind everyone here and members of the public that this weekend, Vernon Hills Police is hosting a law enforcement exposition at the mall. It's both Saturday and Sunday. The hours of the mall, Saturday are 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Sunday 11 a.m. and to 6 p.m. And there will be nearly 30 law enforcement agencies and affiliates there on display with equipment. They'll have some activities and some giveaways for folks that stop by their tables. And of significant interest for a lot of people, there will be a canine demonstration throughout the day on Saturday at 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and 7 o'clock, and Sunday at 1 and 7 o'clock. So you'll see police canine demonstration. So we welcome all members of the public to come, enjoy, and maybe spend a little money at the mall while you're there. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right. Next item is the omnibus vote agenda, and we have items A through G. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? All right, roll call.
Trustees Schultz, Markwart,
Aye.
Cook, Oppenheim,
Aye.
Takaoka,
Aye.
Hebda.
Aye. Okay, unfinished additional business. A, approval of the village board meetings of August 15th, 2017. Is there a motion to approve?
So made.
Second?
Okay. Roll call.
Trustees Markwart,
Aye.
Cook, Oppenheim,
Aye.
Takaoka,
Aye.
Hebda,
Aye.
Schultz.
Next item is approval and passage of ordinance number 2017-101, granting approval of the site landscape and architect plans to allow an addition to the beer market.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Roll call.
Trustees Cook, Oppenheim,
Aye.
Takaoka,
Aye.
Hebda,
This is a tough one for me because I did vote present last time because I'm not real excited about it. But I am going to vote aye because I understand businesses and hopefully they will work together with the other people in that park to make sure that it's good. So,
Schultz, Markwart.
Aye.
item C, approval and passage of ordinance 2017-102, an ordinance awarding the 2017 Alexander Drive Storm Sewer Extension Contract to R.A. Massini of Lakemore, Illinois, in the amount not to exceed $81,470. Public Works.
Yes,
Board Director.
thank you very much. So about 40 years ago, in the Ardmore, Alexandria area, the original developer ended up installing a 4-inch perforated drain. It was supposed to function as a storm sewer. It was never dedicated to the village, and essentially, it didn't have a sock on it. Roots have infested it. Sediment has completely clogged it. It's rendered this area a problem. Water is ponded in their backyards for 3 weeks on time. So what we've done is we went through and recommended to the board. It was placed in the capital improvement program and budgeted. So the overall budget was $135,000. We did solicit proposals, or actually we went out to bid, and we received a number of proposals. The lowest qualified bidder was R.A. Mancini at a not-to-exceed figure of $81,470. They're qualified, they can do the work. More importantly, we are going to do it the right way. We acquired easements from all of the homeowners that are affected by that. It will be a storm sewer that's properly sized. It's going to be dedicated to the village, and we'll be able to maintain it. It affects so many homeowners, that's why it was added to our local drainage program. So we are ready to move forward if the board approves this contract. The homeowners are well aware of the project. The bid opening has happened. We're looking that the project would commence as early as next Monday if approved, and then they would complete the project by October 27th. So staff recommends approval of Resolution 2017-102.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve. I will make the comment, we've been very lucky in our village, and we've gone through the past couple of months where we've had some rain. This is needed for there, and very much so. So,
Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? If not, roll call.
Trustees Oppenheim,
Aye.
Takaoka,
Aye.
Hebda,
Aye.
Schultz, Markwart,
aye.
Cook.
Okay. Last item under unfinished business is item D, ordinance 2017-103, an ordinance waiving the competitive bid process for the Greggs Parkway and Huntington Drive median improvements and awarding the contract for pavement removal and concrete improvements to Chadwick Contracting of Lake in the Hills in the amount not to exceed $24,635. Public Works Director Brown.
Thank you. This is another project that was included in the capital improvement program. We had budgeted $100,000. We weren't certain ultimately what the design would be. As everyone is aware, there's a three-party agreement between the original builders, Zale, the village, and the county. Per that agreement, the county has approval authority of anything that reduces the capacity on Greggs Parkway, Huntington, or Lakeview. As part of that, we worked with Lake County Department of Transportation. We presented a number of alternatives to the board. The board gave direction to meet with LDOT. Ultimately, this was the plan that was approved. So in terms of what we're looking to do is enhance the pedestrian crossing. You can see it in the right leg of the intersection. What we're looking to do, instead of people being required to cross 4 lanes of traffic, if they're heading from north to south, they can cross and look in one direction, cross 2 lanes of traffic, and there's a median that is wide enough that they could have a stroller, they could have a bicycle, and they can stop in this area, and then they can look, and they don't have as many conflict points with traffic. So we think this is a safer improvement. LDOT agrees with that, and so that's why this is on your agenda. I wanted to alert the board that the village will be general contracting this. So this is just one of the many items that will ultimately be brought to the board. This is the first step where they're removing the asphalt, they're adding curb and gutter, and creating the median. The sidewalk will also be pushed slightly to the east. There's also a light pole shown on the plan to help illuminate the intersection better. So that's the first part of it. We are also working with Greggs Landing Homeowners Association because for some of the elements, they have by agreement, a license agreement with the village, they have an irrigation system. So they have one contractor who originally designed that and installed it. It's American National. We've asked them to give us a proposal to extend their system to the median, and they would maintain it. So we will bring back their proposal or a competing proposal, but we're leaning towards, if all things being equal, it would be best that one person installs and maintains it. There is a similar situation in terms of the landscaping. The Greg's Landing Homeowners Association also maintains the boulevard system. So as part of that, they have a relationship with Acres that if Acres installs the landscaping, they will maintain that and guarantee it in perpetuity. It's a really good arrangement for the HOA, and they have previous bid numbers that tell them this is what it costs for this species of tree, bush, plant, etc. So we need to do some fact checking as far as the competitiveness of their bids, but we will be bringing back other contracts, one being the irrigation system, one being the landscaping. We also need to bore underneath the road for electric, for the light, and have a foundation installed. And then our previous contractor for the pavement markings, that was a competitively bid project, we will be bringing that back too. So just wanted to alert you that there's a number of different steps. We're looking to move forward with this. Should the board approve this resolution, we will work with the contractor, mobilize, and start this project ASAP.
Is there a motion to approve ordinance 2017-103?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second it, but I'd like to
Yep, are there any
discuss.
comments or
yeah.
questions? Yes. Mhm.
So thank you for your work on this. I wanted to mention the things that we discussed earlier, just so I can bring it to the attention of the board. I was approached by some of the people who are concerned about the traffic on Greg's, and I brought up that this median is going to be going in, and someone asked about putting additional lighting so that people would know that pedestrians are going by. And as I'd mentioned to Dave earlier, and I'd sent him an email, I'd looked into the possibility of getting some in-ground lights that are triggered by pedestrians who would go by either actively, or there's even a passive system where it's automatically triggered, and then it lights onto the roadway itself. This is a pretty unusual intersection in that there's several curves and people turning from various directions, and it's somewhat unsafe. So I think if it's deserved anywhere, this might be the spot, but it's something that we're going to continue to look into. I don't know, that being said, would there be any advantage, and you probably haven't had a chance to really look into it, would there be any advantage to, if we were going to go ahead with that lighting system, to do it at the same time as this? And from what I read, it doesn't require too much. It's just a very small cut, very narrow and very shallow.
Yes, in terms of if we did enhancements like that, that could be an additive approach after this enhancement. My suggestion would be, let's install this, let's see
Okay.
how it works, and we certainly can have more discussions.
Okay, sounds good.
Any other comments or questions? If not, can we have a roll call?
Trustees Takaoka,
Aye.
Hebda,
Aye.
Schultz, Markwart,
Aye.
Cook, Oppenheim.
Aye.
Okay, another item B, approval and passage of resolution 2017-065, a resolution approving, excuse me, I missed it. Resolution 2017-064, resolution granting approval to operate an outdoor special event for Bobo's Gyros located at 2080 Hawthorne Village Commons. Manager Beck.
Thank you. The Bobo Car, Truck, and Motorcycle Show would take place on Sunday, September 17th. The hours of operation would be 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., and proceeds will benefit the Jesse Goldsmith Scholarship Memorial Fund of the Vernon Hills Police Department. Vehicles would be displayed on the east parking lot in front of Hobby Lobby and Bobo's. And spectator parking would also be located in this east lot. And as a note, Hobby Lobby and the Hair Salon that are adjacent to the east lot would be closed on Sunday, so they would not be impacted by the event. The west parking lot would be used for customer parking for retail stores and restaurants in the center that remain open during the event. Also of note is that each business in the shopping center has been notified of this event, and no objections have been received as of date. There would be 2 signs, approximately 24 inches by 36 inches, that would be located at the access drive from Town Line Road. And please note the site plan that shows the exact locations of where everything will be staged is attached to your packet. So for tonight, if the board feels the temporary use is appropriate, a motion approving the attached resolution is recommended, subject to the conditions that are set forth in your packet. And Representative Bobo's and the company that will be running the car show is here to answer any questions you may have.
Can you state your name for the record, please?
Thomas Rizzo, owner of Bobo's.
Okay.
Steve Haworka, owner of BGV Motorsports.
How many cars or how many vehicles are you anticipating being there, or what's your plan? Don't know.
As we've experienced what crazy weather we've had and the fact that, it's just up in the air. I mean, normally on a typical first-year event, which is what this is for us, we're hoping somewhere between 50 and 100 cars.
Okay.
But since we do also run, my company also runs the Vernon Hills Cruise Night, as most of you guys well know, we've got 150 and up cars in the Sears parking lot. So we do have a big reach, and if we did, that'd be wonderful because the proceeds of the event are going to help,
Right.
the police scholarship fund.
Okay.
So
Any other questions from the board? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Have a second?
Second.
Go ahead.
Could I have a roll call?
Trustees Hebda,
Aye.
Schultz, Markwart,
Aye.
Cook, Oppenheim,
Aye.
Takaoka.
Aye.
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have another item, Resolution 2017-065, a resolution approving a voting site agreement between Lake County and the Village of Vernon Hills. Village Manager Calmer.
Thank you, Madam President. As you know, the Lashin Center will close at the end of this year, on December 31st. As you also know, the Lashin Center for years has also served as a polling place for 4 precincts and serving a total of 3,500 registered voters. So in an attempt to replace that, I've reached out to County Clerk Carla Wyckoff about moving the polling place into the Village Hall. As you know, we have talked about this previously, and we've been able to find a location for the polling place here in the Village Hall, and it will be tentatively in the Senior Center. And I say tentatively because Mike Atkinson and his team are working with Hesner Architects about remodeling a small portion of the building here on the first floor that may allow, or may be completed, and may allow that polling place to be located on the first floor. So at the August 7th Lake County Board meeting, Clerk Wyckoff was authorized to relocate the current voting site from the Lashin Center to the Village Hall for the March primary and the November general election in 2018. She's also provided us now with the standard voting site agreement, which the village attorney has reviewed, and we've added some language back to them that they have agreed to include, specifically addressing the indemnity requirements that we have for our building. So with that, I can answer any questions. It's recommended that Resolution 2017-065 be approved, subject to review and approval of the final agreement by the village attorney. And I can answer any questions that you may have.
First, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Are there any comments, questions? If not, roll call.
Trustees Schultz, Markwart,
Aye.
Cook, Oppenheim,
Aye.
Takaoka,
Aye.
Hebda.
Aye. Are there any other items to come under the board? I do have one, just to remind our residents, school is open and people are driving very, very fast in our neighborhoods. And there are a lot of kids that are walking. There's a lot of kids that are riding their bikes. There are buses. So I just want to remind people that we need to be aware of that. There's a lot of lot of things going on right now, so hopefully those that are watching at home tonight, just to remind people as you see them to slow down and be aware of the kids that are out there, especially the walkers and that are coming back and forth. So just that's my only item that I'd like to bring up tonight.
I'm just throwing one out. We had a employee, Matt Bartlett, who was here for 22 or 24 years. And he had just won a national award for his work as volunteer for the Public Works Department. And he worked with us, and he's performed actually because of summer celebration. He's performed, we have a child there, so I don't know if I should say Santa Claus. But he has helped Santa Claus in his performance with things in our village and other areas. So I just wanted to give a applaud to him because he's done a very good job and is continuing.
Do we need to go into closed session tonight? Okay, so can I have a motion to adjourn the board meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call.
Trustees Markwart.
Aye.
Cook. Oppenheim.
Aye.
Takayuka.
Aye.
Hebda.
Aye.
Schultz.
All right, on to Committee of the Whole. First item on Committee of the Whole is approval of the Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of August 15th, 2017. I need a motion and a second.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Any comments or questions? If not, roll call.
Trustees Cook. Oppenheim.
Aye.
Takaoka.
Aye.
Hebda.
Aye.
Schultz. Markwart.
Aye.
And the item that all of you are probably here for, number 2, discussion of skunk nuisance issues. Chief Chris, take it away.
Thank you, Madam President.
You're
So,
welcome.
I'm happy to provide some information, and I'm sure there would be some comments from some of our residents. So, and I think it's helpful for folks that maybe haven't done as much recent research as I have to just set a few common understandings, or so we have a common understanding in the room. And there's no doubt that this is a real nuisance animal. They can cause real problems for homeowners and for residents. But it is an annual problem. It's been going on a long time. These animals are found in every county in Illinois. And to remind everyone, they're relatively nocturnal. You shouldn't see them during the day. It'll be shortly after dark, and they could be active all night long. Sometimes you might see them just before dark or just after the sun comes up. It's really difficult to know. I've talked to a couple experts in the state. It's really difficult to know if the population's on an upswing or not. There's some indications that it is, and oftentimes they say what you have is you have a pocket of activity, or you see an upswing in one area and a downswing in others, but generally they haven't seen any tremendous spike across the region. Certainly the mild winter we had and the very wet summer has caused some challenges for some of the mitigation efforts that might otherwise work better, and I'll explain that in just a minute. And it's also important for us to understand this is not a problem we can eradicate. We cannot remove skunks from our community. That would be impossible to try and remove all the skunks from our community. But there are specific issues that can be dealt with by, the properly trained personnel. And what is going on right now at the village level is the village and the park district have partnered to try and do some trapping on public lands. So in some of our parks and some of our open green spaces, we're working together to try and do some trapping. I could explain just a little more about that too in a minute. I wanted to lay out some basic guidelines for anyone that looks this up, some basic do's and don'ts, some real common steps to take that can be quite effective is we want homeowners to check their properties and look for signs of dens, look for signs of grubbing activity where an animal will actually dig. Skunks have deep claws. They use that to dig up earthworms and grubs from the ground. And so if you go out in the morning and you find these tufts of grass pulled up, it's a pretty good sign you've got visiting your yard. They can make their dens everywhere, wood piles, deep shrubbery, porches under decks, under patios are a real problem. Some ideas is to have the area well lit, use motion sensor lights that can help. There's even some distraction tools, some motion activated noisemakers and strobe type lights that are sometimes effective at repelling skunks out of the area. It's very important we keep a close eye on our pets. Dogs need to be on a leash. If you're walking after dark, you certainly want to use a flashlight. Walk with the area, check. These are not aggressive animals. They want to avoid contact with bigger animals than themselves. So if they see you, they'll tend to scatter. They won't run from prey, so you shouldn't charge them or try and get aggressive, because that's when they'll turn and do what they do. Very important to keep food sources away. So you want to clean up any fallen fruits, so crab apples, apples, other berries that fall are going to be, these are herbivores that will eat fruit or meat. We're a little late now to apply grub control, but in summertime, June and July, putting down GrubX and grub control is important. The things you don't want to do is leave your pet food outside. You don't want to try and attempt to poison these animals. You can have some real bad consequences with other animals unintendedly or unintentionally getting into that poison. Obviously, the discharge of a firearm to shoot these animals is prohibited by law. We don't want anyone doing that. Rigging booby traps is not a good idea to try and take these out. And I've heard some pretty fantastic stories up there of people trying to get these things. Trapping is not allowed without a permit. Now, the State Department of Natural Resources will issue permits to private homeowners, but they strongly recommend against that strategy, and for good reason, particularly in a developed area like this. And you also don't want to enclose an area where you think there is a den permanently. So you got a hole underneath your deck and you fill it with concrete and pea gravel, and there's an animal down there. It might just die under there, and you don't know what kind of odor can come up as a result. So there's some strategies to follow. Lastly, I want to point out the police department's webpage has a lot of resources, including about 10, not quite 10, licensed nuisance animal control vendors that can help people with problems. And the state DNR website has tremendous information about learning how to mitigate skunk issues. And there they have well over 25 state licensed trappers and nuisance animal control specialists that can help solve individual problems. So with that, that's kind of the background. I wanted to provide a little bit of information. I know we have residents here that want to share some of their concerns, and perhaps it's appropriate to hear them out and come back to any clarification.
Is there anyone that wants to come up and share stories with us? Sure.
Hi, I'm Kristen Weissman. I'm at 206 Melody Lane. My husband's going to pass out
Okay, great.
a flyer. Some of you might need to share because I don't have enough. But I am the creator of the Skunkapalooza Deer Path Neighbor web group, Facebook page. We've had such a prevalent problem happen this past summer that we needed to split off from our normal neighbor Facebook group into a skunk-centric venue that we could discuss the problems without getting everyone else that doesn't have the problems upset. I came up with the idea of maybe mapping out where people were sighting, because what would happen is people would say, oh my gosh, there's a skunk on such and such. You know, we are trying to help our neighbors who are walking their dogs or out in the evening. And there's just been so many that it became a thousands of posts in a short matter of time. However, it was hard to figure out what and where they were coming from. There was a lot of discussion of who's responsible for it. Is it the village? Is it the park district? Is it the homeowner? But there wasn't really any data to see where these occurrences are happening and to kind of nail down what the issue was. So I put it out there that maybe we should come up with a map where we could start posting or listing the sightings instead of filling up the page with posts that just go into cyberspace. And one of the members, John Fainum, came up with this Google map. I'm not sure if it could be brought up on the screen, but if it's a public map, and you can go to it at the website that's listed on the handout, www.deernye.com, and you can see all of the sightings that we have logged in the last probably 4 or 5 weeks. Maybe?
Probably, I would say about 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, we have more than 125 sightings logged in just that short amount of time. And we started also noting where people have been successful at trapping. So once you get the data down onto a visual map, you can start to see where the pockets of activity are. Looking at the map, you can see that there isn't it's just not the perimeters of the park. So it's just not, they're coming from the parkway into people's yards. They're also in the middle of the subdivision where there isn't a park, for within a few blocks. They're in the parks, they're on the public easement. I'm not sure what the tree lines, they're everywhere. We can't we can't walk the dog around the block without encountering 4 on my block. I live in this dark patch right here.
I see that.
And there's a few other people that live in a couple of the other dark patches that are here. So basically, what the map has shown is that it is sort of a community-wide problem, not just a homeowner's problem or a village problem or a park problem. And so what I would like to ask for is for the village and the park district to be the lead in helping our community solve this issue that's become so pervasive that we have to have its own Facebook group and a map to help try to figure out how to conquer this. The worrisome thing is that they're not acting as they should. They're becoming much more brazen, much more used to people. I was sitting on my porch step just this weekend with my 4-year-old son. It's 7 o'clock. It's still daylight. We have a lighted porch, so there's extra light, and we were making noise and we were talking, and all of a sudden I looked to my right, and less than 7 feet away was a skunk coming right towards us on our mulch bed of our porch, and we were just like, whoa, back away. So they're out in the daytime. We've done all that we can as homeowners to prevent them coming into our yard. We moved here just last year, so my family is not used to this skunks that are around here. We're from the western suburbs, and they're not as pervasive out there as they are here. So this was our first kind of summer of the skunk, and we spent the summer re-landscaping our yard. We moved to a property that needed a lot of rehab and also used to be.
There it is.
There's the map. And when we moved into our yard, our home, we found out that the previous homeowner was sort of a skunk harborer, I guess is what they're called, where he had a den underneath the deck that is now our deck, and did nothing about it for years, and just let them wreak havoc on the neighbors. And we didn't want to be those kind of neighbors when we moved in. So we had to regrade, resod, re-fence our yard. We put wire underneath, because we're just so fearful that we already have a den on our property and we don't want it to be re-inhabited. So we've done all these things. We just got fox urine granules and put them around the yard. Found out that that doesn't prevent them from coming in either. So we have a Nest Cam in our dog run, and we have video of the skunks coming in through our gate that is on Deer Path. And that's unfortunately an area that we can't fortify because it's a gate, so we can't put wire underneath it. We're gonna have to figure out another solution, but they just kind of come in, check out the dog run, and then get on our little security camera that we have in the dog run to check for skunks before we let the dog out, and then head out the front gate. So it's just, there's just so many, and we just need help because we're all kind of losing our minds in our neighborhood. So what we need is somebody to kind of step up to help us with education of prevention, just like was discussed before. It's too late in the season now to really prevent anything. Now we just have to deal with what is already in the neighborhood and do something about it before winter comes, because if we have another mild winter like we had last winter, we're going to have just a huge problem next year. So we just like help educating the community, and also we would like maybe, well, not maybe, but we would like some financial help for the homeowners that are willing to trap on their property, because in our instance, we don't have them living on our property, but they're coming from very close by, and we're easily going to be able to rack up, you know, $1,000 of in a very short time trying to trap these. So, and there's so many more neighbors that have much more pervasive problem on their property than we do. So we're just looking for some assistance and some leadership.
Can I just add
Yes,
something?
please do.
Also, just communication. I mean, we really do appreciate everything that you have done so far, but if there's a way that you can let the residents know what you're doing, maybe send a letter, or, you know, I don't know, reverse 911, something to let us know what you're doing, because we really do appreciate it, and we do really want to work together. Just in my personal experience, I've lived in Vernon Hills for 25 years. I've lived in my home for almost 19, and I have seen it get worse and worse and worse. I lived on the other side of 60 by Big Bear Lake. Of course, there wasn't that many back then, but moving into Deer Path, it just has, every year it gets worse and worse. The other night, I was at a friend's house she lives on Bedford and Owencia. So in between Bedford and Cherokee on Owencia, there's homes that back up to the park. There's homes that face her home. We were outside, and in a 30-minute period, I saw 4 skunks come right from the park, 4 different skunks. And they took the same path. They walked, just waddled right across Owencia, right up Owencia, right on her fence line. I said, we better go inside. This is going to come in your backyard. Didn't go in her backyard, went in her neighbor's backyard. Clearly, she said they go in that backyard all the time. There's got to be some sort of tree or something that's dropping berries. Went straight through. Her other neighbor came out with a flashlight looking for skunks, let the dog out, and we yelled, get the dog inside, because we just saw a skunk 20 seconds ago. And sure enough, he grabbed the dog, brought the dog inside, and the skunk was right there. So, you know, they're definitely coming from the park, and I understand that you do have traps set up there, and that's great. And I know that they're hidden because I walk the park a lot and I don't see them, which is great. But, you know, just helping us, you know, not necessarily on our private property, but on Deer Path. You know, I drive up Deer Path at night, and there's they're just right on the street. You know, people can't walk up Deer Path. It's just a very, it's just a nuisance. I can't even sit outside in my backyard and enjoy the last couple of weeks of warm weather that we might have because they just come right in my backyard. They're not afraid, and I have actually seen them in my backyard at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Bright
it's
daylight.
Bright daylight that they're.
I've used mothballs, which seem to help. I've removed 2 trees in my backyard, and my neighbor removed a huge berry tree that I think I was feeding the skunks for like the last 3 years because it kept dropping these berries. And we've removed that and spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars as neighbors, and they're still there. We have also done the whole GrubX, and they're just still looking for food, and they'll go anywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that would like to come up and?
Actually, I'd like to say something, because I've had a lot of neighbors approach me about this as well. But I wanted to, in response to Laura, what would be the best way to communicate to you? You have the Deer Path Network, Facebook page. We could tell you to hit our website. We could send you a flyer that may end up in the garbage. So what do you think, Laura, would be?
Can you come up to the mic? I'm sorry. Thank you.
Sorry, I wanted to ask while she was up there.
No, that's okay. I think there's a lot of neighbors that aren't on social media. There's a lot of people that live in, there's a lot of new families in Deer Path. There's also a lot of original owners. And I think a lot of people aren't on Facebook, social media. So if the village could send out a letter or, I honestly don't know, just some sort of communication to the neighbors of Deer Path to let us know what you're doing about it. Let us know if you trap them. That might put some ease to some people's minds, knowing that you are trapping them. I don't know how many of you trapped. I know my neighbors have trapped them, but I don't know how many the village has trapped. And I can go on your website, but I think, like I said, a lot of people aren't on social media. So just somehow sending a letter or I don't know, like I said, reverse 911, I don't know, I know they sometimes can do that. The schools send out, the district sends out, notices with school closings. Is there something like that the village has? Some people might get annoyed by it, but I think a majority of the people in Deer Path especially would appreciate just the communication, because we really do appreciate what you have been doing. We just need to know what's going on. So,
thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say, I live on Warrington, I'm Stacy Pristis, 5 Warrington. As far as that, maybe email blasts, because you guys send out emails if you ask for those emails to come to you, that might work. But I just want to kind of back up what they're saying. I've lived here for, I think, 14 years. Some of the comments that I've received in social media have been from some of the board members, as well as citizens. I take it with a grain of salt. But some of it is a little demeaning. Plug up all your holes in your backyard. I have a chain link fence. So I don't know about you, but I can't plug up thousands of holes because those big skunks go through those little holes in the chain link fence. I'm not going to go put up new fence because of the skunks. I'm just not going to do it. It was a week or two ago. I was home. It was 5:53 on the dot because I happened to look at my phone right after I was startled by a skunk looking at me in my sliding glass door. As I was going to grab the leash to take my dog for a walk, not in my backyard because I like to go on walks. You probably see me all the time with my boxer. But I almost fell over, literally almost fell back when I saw the skunk looking at me, and my dog almost went through the glass trying to get to it. So they're not just nocturnal. I mean, I know generally speaking they're supposed to be, but it was 5:53 in the evening. So that was alarming. The other night I walked my dog, and in either direction I was going, there was a skunk. I was on one of the paths that's south of Cherokee, the walking path. I think it's south of Keswick. There's a sidewalk there. I saw one from very far away. I was with my dog. I kind of stood there thinking, I have nowhere to go. Where am I going to go? I saw 5 other people doing the exact same thing, not even kidding. I yelled skunk to a walker that was an older man that was walking because he didn't see it, and he thanked me profusely because he was within feet and he would have probably got skunked inadvertently. I know it's not just the village's problem, but I have done grub control at the beginning of the summer. I knew I had a problem. I did it. I can't plug up all my holes. I can't hire a trapper to trap, 5, 6, 7 skunks, whatever's going to come my way. I just can't do it. I pay taxes just like every one of these other good citizens does to the village, and I feel like I've already paid for some of this service for you guys to help us. And so I'm asking that if you are helping, which is great because I've heard that you are, but we don't hear all of it, I'm asking that you do more. And, I've been here for years. There was a big problem a few years ago. There was a big thing in the news a few years ago, just like there was recently. And I feel like it's worse now. I feel like I shouldn't have to pay again out of my pocket for something that hopefully the village has better resources and better opportunity to help us with this problem. So I would really appreciate any help, and they are a lot in the tree lines of the parks, I will tell you. That's where they're coming from, so.
Just to clarify, not to demean you, but we do not
taxes?
charge a property tax for the residents, just so you understand that.
Okay.
We don't do that, so I
Well,
just want
then
to clarify
I'll
that
take
one
that
point. No, that's okay, that's okay. And
Yeah.
we do sales tax, yeah, so, and I did see your son today, and he's grown up too
Oh,
fast.
yes,
So,
he
anyway,
is taller than me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to come up and comment? Yes, Lisa?
Hi, Lisa Warner, 16 Greenvale. I agree with everything that was said, and 7 years ago, I was crazy with the skunk thing, so I appreciate this. I do not have the technological experience to have done that. I would just like to add maybe, perhaps, if there's an area that has a problem, to do a reverse 911 to the residents on that block, because people need to stop feeding wildlife. I know we have a problem on our block. Somebody likes to feed the birds, and every night we see the skunks walk to where the rest of the bird seed is. So if in areas of big activity, if residents could be conscientious and not feed wildlife during times like this. But other than that, I feel badly that the skunks have to be trapped, but there are too many and it's really disruptive. I no longer have a dog, so I don't have that worry, but I like to sleep with the windows open.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for listening to everybody, and thank you for all the work you've done.
Thank you, Lisa.
Anybody else?
Come on.
We got to come to the, got to come
Sorry,
to
Craig.
the
Craig,
podium. We make you
They
come
have
to the
The
podium.
resident have to hear you too. so-
They want to hear you too.
Well, yeah, I've got answers, but is there some reason you can't put traps on private property? Because you're a skunk, let me tell you what, your skunks are all living on private property. There's very few out along the, there's some on the creek out there, but the vast majority of these things are living in your backyard and under your stoops or whatever. And they're going to be, these are young ones now that were born this year, and they're going to be looking for dens over the winter time. So, if you've got any spots where they can burrow under your front steps or under your porch, that's the kind of condominium they're looking for. And then they're going to have their babies in the spring, da-da-da-da. So can't eradicate them, but you need to kill a lot of these things right now and get them out of the circle of life. And if you guys, these people are complaining about skunks in their backyard, if you know where they are, put the traps there and kill them, trap them. Heaven forbid we kill them. Trap them in these people's yards where they're seeing them, rather than doing, random baitings out in the forest there, Take it from an old hunter, if you know where the game trail is, you just set your blind up there and get one. So.
Sure. Let me, maybe I can fill in a few more pieces of information that we've learned to kind of collectively address some of the concerns. And so part of the challenge that this year's weather event, the mild winter and the very wet weather is causing is that it's very lush, easy eating for the skunks. So to trap them means you got to compel a skunk to avoid all these earthworms and grubs and berries and everything they can get anywhere, but to go into a baited trap. So it's a very difficult thing to bait, to find, to trap. In fact, I read, I talked with the guy that wrote the book about effective skunk control, and believe it or not, he wrote a book about this, and he just said you're going to have a very hard time trapping right now, because they can get food anywhere. They don't need to go in a trap. Where a trap makes sense is where a den is identified, and a professional licensed trapper can go and set traps right around that den, and they go through a sequence of attempts to get that animal to come right out, get right in a trap, and remove that. So we are having difficult time trapping in general now because the animals can feed anywhere. There is a challenge going on people's private property. There's
I meant like if they requested it.
Yeah,
Not just going in there.
yeah. So there is a challenge that with that. I'm not saying it's unsurmountable to try and find a solution, but there are very skilled licensed professional trappers that do this in general, so all the members of the board understand how the services work. I'm sure some of our residents understand how the services work. But in general, if you bring out one of these services, they charge somewhere around $125 to come out, to inspect the premises, to look for areas where there might be a den or indication of a den, and to set up traps. Obviously, if they find a den, they're going to set the traps in such a way to try and capture an animal that's coming out of that den. For instance, when they say plug up holes, it's not so much holes in a chain link fence. Maybe something was miscommunicated. It's if you have a hole going under your porch, the idea is you put a rag or a rolled up newspaper in that area and look to see if the next morning, if it gets pushed out. That's an indication that there's an animal using that den. So they will work on that den and try and take out animals. And then if they capture a target animal, and the different vendors will work differently, but many times you only pay for a targeted animal. So if they get a skunk in a trap, that can cost anywhere from $65, $75 seems to be the going rate. They'll remove that animal. They'll leave the trap there, and as long as they're still getting animals, they'll keep trapping animals. But it's really important that they find a den to work in, to go out there and think that we can set more traps. So right now we have a vendor. In fact, we just got this map, Skunkapalooza. It's very original. It's very innovative. My compliments to a group of neighbors to try and help solve a problem. And I think we can use this information. I think we're going to be sharing. Our staff's going to be meeting with our vendor, who I think is very skilled. But we have a big challenge ahead of us. And this might help us relocate some of our traps. We might have a little more success. But frankly, someone mentioned it. If your neighbor's out there with a fruit-bearing tree, leaving a lot of rich food source on the ground, if they're feeding birds, if they're leaving dog food out, they can be contributing to the problem. If they're not dealing with their den, that animal might be walking right past your house every night they're going out. So it is a bit of a community problem. Education's a big part of it. Communicating, I heard a lot of notes about how to better communicate. So I think that's something we have to put our heads around to better get the word out that this really is a community problem. So if you're not taking care of your property, you can be affecting a lot of neighbors. So just some more background. I'm happy to answer any other questions that board members might have.
What have you, with the Park District, what discussions have occurred with the Park District? Because you
So
said,
we budget, and the Park District budgets, and we work with the trapping vendor. They had a little more success earlier in the year. Right now, we seem to be in a lull where the animals are active and they're moving around, but we're not getting hits on the trap. So Park District's here, maybe they can add to that.
Mr. Dorhofer, welcome.
Madam President, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
Thank you.
We've been trapping in the park since mid-June.
Okay.
We've got roughly 7 traps going that we move from place to place. We've been using the map recently as it got developed.
Good.
As a matter of fact, today, traps got moved right to where you had told us they were, between Cherokee and Bedford. We've got traps going in there because that's the first we've really got intelligence of. There are other traps down on the north end by Warrington Park. So once we know where they're at, you can put them out. The problem is you're hoping they run into them. You really need to get it to the den. I personally have put 2 traps on my yard. And they're bold, because I saw one at 3 o'clock in the afternoon 2 days ago that I almost ran into. I've caught 3. And the other day, I watched one from a window go to the back of the trap, dig a hole under the trap to get the food to fall down so he could get it out. It is a problem. We're aware of it, and, you know, we're ready to work with you and whatever we need to do.
Let me also help clarify that setting a trap, in order to abide by law, when you set a trap, that trap has to be checked once every day. So keep in mind, if we set 5 traps up, those are 5 traps that have to be checked by someone every day. When a licensed trapper makes an arrangement with a homeowner, they make a deal with that homeowner on who's going to inspect that trap. Is the homeowner going to do it? Is the licensed trapper going to come back and do it every day? But we really can't just put a bunch of traps out there. And the reason for that is if you catch a wrong animal in it, you know, we could potentially catch a domestic animal or something. You don't want an animal to suffer. You want to be able to release an animal that wasn't intended to be trapped. So they have to be checked every day. It means work. The more traps you do means more work associated with it.
The other challenge you run into with the trappers is they don't work weekends. So you have to close the trap Friday and reset the trap on Sunday. So they take the weekend off, and since they're the only ones that can legally take care of a skunk, you have to shut the trap down on the weekend. So you're only really getting 5 days out of the week.
Oh, wait.
We have caught some in the parks. We also did catch one raccoon, which unfortunately had rabies.
Oh, wow.
So that one had to be put down as well.
Okay.
And we've caught 2 opossums that we were let go.
Okay.
We've caught 2 opossums too. So.
And I got one of them in my backyard as well. So.
I have a question.
Yes, trustee.
So I guess the question is, how many traps are out there in total between the Park District and the village, and how many skunks have we actually caught?
We've had 5 traps out since August 9th, and we've caught 2 possums, no skunks. On the village, the Park District's had a little more luck.
Yeah, we've had, as of this morning with James Kim, we are up to 8 skunks, and we've got roughly 7 traps going in different parks at different times.
I've been told by the trappers that when we get into having about 3 nights in a row where the temperature might drop below 40 degrees, the animals might start changing their behavior a little bit. They sense that winter's coming on. They might get more active, and that might be helpful for our trapping efforts. No guarantees, but it might be helpful. We should see some change in behavior. Maybe good, maybe bad, I don't know.
So if a resident wanted a trap on their property, you said it wasn't insurmountable, is it doable? What's the process?
Well, we would still want to work with a licensed trapper to do that. You know, I think that there would have to be some structure to a program if the board wanted to direct the staff to work on something. But for us to go out and just start putting more and more traps, you know, really exponentially affects the amount of work we do. And then again, we still need to work with a licensed trapper. So right now, the village and park district are paying for a licensed trapper to do that. And they're putting out traps, and we're paying for animals. We're paying for that service.
Right.
Okay, so I understand liability, as just mentioning, talking to John. So if your dog or your cat or your animal, your hamster got caught in it, obviously there's liability. I mean, could we sign a waiver? If someone said, hey, I want you guys to put a trap on our property, we'll sign a waiver of liability. I don't know, I'm just throwing things out there.
You know,
when something's not insurmountable, we could at least try and discuss it.
I guess my
on behalf of the
question is there are, or I would point out that there are a lot of service providers that can do this. There are state DNR has on their site 25 different licensed trappers that can do this for us. This is what they do every day. They're experts at doing this. If there's a strategy to be had for some type of assistance, I would suggest that the effort is through them, not for us to necessarily buy more traps and have more traps and be dabbling into an arena that we really are not the experts at.
Village Mayor.
Maybe one of the options that we could consider too, and we've had some discussions internally about this, is the option of partnering with the residents to help with to help offset some of the cost. For example, a resident could enter into an agreement or contract with one of the providers to set the traps, and based on the targeted animal, in this case being the skunk, the village could assist with the cost of removal of the skunk, or skunks, as the case may be. And so, it would be incumbent upon the provider of the service to provide evidence that that animal was removed, instead of being a raccoon, for instance, or a possum, or the neighbor's cat. But there would be a way to offset the cost for removal of the skunk from that property. However, albeit the contract would be with the property owner
Right.
To do this. So it would be a partnership between the village and them. I mean, we've had a long partnership with the Park District in terms of working together to remove these animals from the public properties, and it may be a way to extend onto the private properties.
And that's something that Park District would be happy to help with. We could share that cost, split it 3 ways between the resident. If the resident pick up maybe the initial cost of putting the
Right.
cage up, and then
we
the
could-
targeted animals, we split the cost with you. We've got a budget for skunk eradication.
Right.
Whether we take them out of the parks or whether we take them out of the homes,
Homes.
it doesn't matter to us. We just like to get rid of them. So however we can work together.
I do agree. I think that a professional trapper is important. I don't want to see people putting traps up on their own. I think that could get very dangerous. And I think I like that idea where we could possibly, if a resident's going to impose on a trapper to do that, and if skunks are caught, we can help assist with the cost of the removal and come up with an agreement that way, and at least try that for this period of time and see where we go, and maybe we can get rid of some of these dens that are out there and hopefully eliminate some of the population. Unfortunately, this is a huge problem, not just in the village of Vernon Hills. We know that there are issues. I think Mundelein is facing some real serious problems with theirs as well. But I don't know, any other board members agree with that or would like to try something like that where we could at least assist in the cost of removal if a skunk is caught on personal property, if the residence is licensed with a trapper?
And I certainly think that's a good idea. I was wondering if we can help negotiate a discounted rate, since there's a lot in a smaller area. Maybe we can develop a set list of preferred providers and help set up a plan and say, here's 4 providers. We've negotiated this rate. We'll pay for a portion of it, and then they're only coming to a small area. They're coming to Deer Path and a few other areas instead of all over Lake County, and then they'd be willing
I
to.
can add to that only because I've talked with several service providers, kind of asking. I think that there's pretty much a set going rate. In fact, the contract we've had, we've negotiated a little bit. There's not much willingness to negotiate. The one caveat I would suggest is they run their services differently, and I think that's good that the homeowners get to select, is this a pattern I want? So some might have 125 initial or 165 initial, those are the ranges, but you get more service for the 165 than you do for the 125. They all charge about 65, 75 per animal, and if we were looking at that end of it for some type of rebate for every animal that's removed, we could have a set rate, but still give the homeowner the flexibility to go after the strategy. It's customer choice. I think customer choice is probably important in this case because they're going to provide different services.
Yeah, I think we can definitely put together a list of a shopping list for the residents and, general cost, along that lines, and contact information. And if, I guess if the committee's comfortable, you can direct the staff to move forward with implementing this type of program to provide that assistance. And maybe it's a not to exceed $75 on an annual animal removal. We'll partner with the Park District. We'll put something in place that will allow us to split the cost on the removal of the skunk, and we'll get something out to the residents, to provide information on select number of trappers or
Right.
whatever it is, and kind of go from there. And then I think from that point, our next step will be to kind of develop or help encourage folks to take that next step, which is to, address their properties and, do things, inspecting and talking about how to close up holes and address ways to protect their property so that maybe in the spring next year and then into the summer next year, we can eradicate some of, or reduce a lot of the nesting opportunities or denning opportunities for these critters, so to speak. So.
I think that's great. I think education's a key moving forward. Because in the Skunkapalooza site is a great site for information, both good and bad, because, people are putting big holes in the middle of the yard saying, I got a den. That's not a den.
Right.
Okay, dens are very specifically, very strategically placed by the skunks. They like to be near home because they want the warmth throughout the winter to keep, okay? So I think the education piece of what to look for, and then once you find what you're looking for, how do you fix that? How do you eradicate it so that they can't come back to that? I think that's key moving forward.
Well, and the other thing I would say is, Kristen, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I wish we have gotten this 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But keep us in the loop on this because, honestly, we've had a hard time getting into the Deer Path neighborhood page to where we might be able to share information to folks. So having this is awesome. And I know I can speak for a number of the staff members that we sincerely appreciate this. Keep us in the loop and the residents and the neighbors out there. If you got a trail or a path or something where you see these guys coming around and it appears to be a parade, let us know so that we can work with the trappers. As Dave says, he's doing that with their team and everything like that. Just let us know.
And I think that's the other key is call the village,
Right.
call the park district. Don't post it on site because we don't have the staff that can go out and monitor websites to see where the activity is. Call the main number, leave a message saying this is where I'm seeing them. And that way we can, as we develop information, as we look at the map, it makes our targeting that much more.
And maybe we set up a Skunkapalooza hotline or something like that. So,
Oh
so
my
that
gosh.
we just
Love it.
we'll
Love
we'll
it.
build on that and allow-
Isn't,
Give me your number.
Wait, okay.
isn't our mobile app active now? Can they use-
it is active.
Yes.
So they can use the
You can
mobile
remember,
app to,
Still not working with Apple yet, so we're
Getting there.
working on that.
we got to get an
I know
Android.
we can-
We got everybody, Android's good, Apple's not yet, so.
Chief,
So-
you have a
One other point I'd like to make, because there is, even if we share some of the costs, there is certainly cost borne by homeowners here. The police department is willing to have a community service officer go. So if someone wants someone to come walk their property with them, look for signs of den, kind of be maybe that first check. We're happy to have a CSO come out, walk it. We've got a couple of CSOs that have been doing this long enough to have a pretty good sense. We're not going to be as good as the licensed trappers, but it's a
At least
good,
something.
it's a free stopgap
Right.
measure. We're happy to do that. Call the police department. Say, hey, listen, we're concerned about possible skunk activity around our house or den or possible den. We'll come see what we can do to help identify whether or not it's worth making a call and
that
spending
investment. Absolutely, I think
$125.
that's great.
If I could ask you a question, one of the concerns that I've heard is the residents here are going to take you up on that. I guarantee your CSOs are going to be very busy.
Yeah.
What about the neighbor who doesn't seem to care?
Yeah, that's,
Okay?
So it's
I can't see over the fence, but I know what's going on over there.
Yeah.
How do we, is there any way that if they, when they check them, say, hey, if you could knock on the door and just say, the awareness piece, how do you take
By
care of
all
that?
means, if a neighbor has a concern that one of their neighbors' activities, if they're leaving food out or whatever, we certainly want them to tell us that. We will try and help work through that. It may not get to an issue of a nuisance.
Right.
But we can stop short and have a friendly little chat with the neighbor too and help them understand that they may be contributing to a problem. So by all means, good point.
I really appreciate the discussion. We've opened up the dialogue, and we thank you all for coming and expressing your concerns. let's get staff to work on what you suggested, John. I think that's a good process, and hopefully Skunkapalooza will be not here. I love this, really. Thank you so much for all this information. I feel bad for those people that have to deal with this, because I know it's a tough one to deal with. So we'll hopefully somehow make improvements so that next year we'll see a map with less little black dots on it too. But thank you so much. And Mrs. Epstein, now you can go home to bed, because we made it. You said 10 o'clock was your bedtime, and we met your need. So thank you. All right. Unless you want to stay for the rest of the meeting, you can go home if you'd like
Can
to.
I,
Oh, wait.
can I add regarding, I saw on the village website, it's kind of hidden there in terms of the skunking information. I had to go to the search section. Is there a way to
Bring it up.
bring it up to the front?
Yep. All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
All right, next is coal tar ban discussion, Public Works Brown
All right,
and
thanks.
Building Commissioner Atkinson. Oh. Look at that little guy. I love that kid. Someone's sleeping. So cute. Bye, guys. Thank you. All right, sorry. All right. Coal tar ban discussion.
Thank you very much. Building Commissioner Atkinson and I are going to be tag teaming on this. I'll be addressing the technical part of things, and then Mike will help us from there. So as far as the research on coal tar, absolutely there are issues, and it is a carcinogen. So polycyclic, aromatic, hydrocarbons, PAHs, if you allow me to use the acronym. Yes, it's a coal byproduct. It does have, there is scientific studies in a number of journals that it is a carcinogen. 25 times as much as other products that are available. So in terms of that, it is a carcinogen. I do think that we should look at how we should regulate it. So we really wanted to look at the impact to our village. We went and talked to some of our brick and mortar stores, did some research. We did not find anything on their shelf, and I've talked to a couple of general managers on that. So in terms of coal tar sealants compared to an asphalt-based sealant, we really would like, given the choice, people to use asphalt-based products. It's more prevalent in areas that are closer to the Appalachians and coal areas. As you get west of the Mississippi, it's almost entirely asphalt-based. So in terms of that, yes, it is an issue. Research-wise, we don't think it's going to be a major impact to our business community. We did a further outreach, and I talked to school districts, the park district, library district. They're aware of this. There has been good communication on the topic, and so most of them are not using it now. The village is not using it. As you know, we're going more towards use of the Reclamite and something that's more asphaltene based. So that's our research, and in terms of how we might go forward and approach this, Mike's going to help us with that.
Thank you. So with that information, as you might guess, staff is recommending that we prohibit the use and sale of coal tar steel coating products within the village. Moving forward, from a regulation perspective, we currently require permits for commercial, retail, and office uses. We require them to have a permit for seal coating. So we think we can regulate those types of uses through the permitting process by making sure they're not using coal tar seal coating type processes. For single family uses, we don't require a permit. And what we're recommending for that is an outreach program whereby we can educate residents, paving contractors that do work in the area, management companies, associations, and the like, letting them know about the prohibition of coal tar products and the adverse effects of its use. We think that this outreach program would be effective for single-family residential uses without adding the extra burden of requiring a homeowner to get a permit simply to seal coat their driveway. So in summary, we're recommending an ordinance that would prohibit its sale and use in the village. Regulation for commercial uses would be handled through the permit process. And then for single-family residential uses, an outreach program, educational program, letting people know about it. If the COW concurs with staff recommendation, then a motion directing staff to prepare an ordinance prohibiting the sale and use of coal tar products in the village is requested. And staff would recommend the effective date of the ordinance be January 1st of 2018. And we can answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions?
Can I ask, have you spoken with any of the contractors in the area? Is this even an issue? Is anyone using the coal tar?
I'm not aware of any contractor that is currently using it. The ones that I'm not certain of are the ones that may drive around on the weekend with the kettles. I don't know what's in those kettles.
Is there any downside that you can see to not having this available?
No.
Okay.
Dave, I just want to comment, this was brought to the, Connie Wesley, she presented, she brought this up, brought it to our attention. Actually, she emailed me, and then I emailed Dave, and then she presented at one of our meetings here. I don't know if you were there. I don't think I wasn't there.
Might have been the one that
Yeah,
I missed as well.
exactly.
Yeah.
But it's probably the residential guys that go around, leave stuff in that stuff mailboxes. But, like Michael said, the HO homeowners associations and, Facebook on social media, we could let people know that way as well.
Certainly. We just had ours seal coated recently. I have no idea.
You probably have coal tar then.
Maybe. I have no idea what they use. I never would have thought to have asked.
Don't step
Honestly.
in the driveway
So-
water.
Go by your driveway.
Don't breathe, wear a gas mask.
Is there a motion to recommend staff to go forward with this?
Directing staff to prepare an ordinance prohibiting the use of and sale of coal tar products, seal coating products within the village.
So moved.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, roll call.
Trustees Takaoka.
Aye.
Hebda.
Aye.
Schultz. Markwart. Cook. Oppenheim.
Aye.
Okay. Any other business? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Roll call.
Trustees Takaoka.
Aye.
Hebda.
Aye.
Schultz. Markwart.
Aye.
Cook. Oppenheim.
Aye.
All right. Thank you and good night.